Hello guys, it's me Simo Orahara, and in this video I would like to talk a little bit about Yhwach, because one of the things that I want answers of it: when did Yhwach exactly born, and is he the son of Ryu or just an incarnation of his shredded power? And who was the first Quincy after Yhwach decided to create a new race of human with the power of manipulating Rishi and destroying hollows from existence? Because these questions are closely related to each other, and the biggest problem is that when you search for their answers, you will find yourself against a wall of ambiguity, because the chronological life of Yhwach is not clear in the light of some events that talks about him either in the manga or the novel. I already talked about this topic 3 years ago, but this time I want to talk about it again, and maybe we can come up with new ideas. So let's begin first with the first question. When was Yhwach born or existed? The answer to this question would have been obtained if Kubo had written the time of the events that occurred in the first pages of chapter 565, in which Kubo talks about the early life of Yhwach. Kubo did not give us any information about the chronological context of those pages, and therefore, in principle, no one is able to know when Yhwach was born or existed. Secondly, and this is one of the great secrets in the story, we don't know for sure the true identity of Yhwach. Is he the son of Ryu, or is he an embodiment of Ryu's power? And these two possibilities were stated by Tokinada in the novel. The letter talked about that Yhwach is the origin of the Quincy's, but he doesn't know whether is he the son of Ryu, meaning that Ryu left behind him a child, or is it the embodiment of Ryu's power? And this is one of Kubo's habits in writing. He puts two possibilities for you and he may choose one of them in the end, because in the story there is information that indicates both. Personally, I began to lean towards the possibility that Yhwach might actually be the son of Ryu, especially the description and shape given by Kubo to Yhwach at the beginning of chapter 565. That child. Yhwach actually looked like a baby. Not much had passed since his birth, and this description and form fits with the first half of Tokinada's words, as well as the words of Yhwach towards Ryu when he said, "my father." But as I said, this remains just a first possibility, because there is another possibility that Yhwach is the embodiment of Ryu's power. Although Tokinada used the word shredded, perhaps referring to the period when the ancestors began to torn Ryu's body. And frankly, I'm no longer with this possibility. I mean, we almost noticed that the most powerful parts of Ryu's body were embodied in the form of entities, whether Mimihagi, the right hand, or Pernida, the left hand. The heart of the king was gifted to Girard by Yhwach, and it is true that they were all strong, but they never reached the power of Yhwach. Even the strongest organ, which is the heart of the king, was easily taken by Yhwach from Girard. In addition to that, and this is the biggest factor, is that Yhwach has the Almighty. It is the power that no one else has but Ryu himself. So to me it seems to be a power inherited from Ryu, because he is simply his son. But regardless of which possibility is the correct, both possibilities share one meaning. Tokinada's words indicate that Yhwach existed hundreds of thousands of years ago. For example, Tokinada says that Ryu may have left a child behind before he was sealed, and we know that the process of sealing that the ancestor carried out towards Ryu took place after the worlds were divided, and then the ancestors sealed him inside a crystal. In the second possibility, Tokinada said that Yhwach may have been incarnated as a result of the power that was torn from Ryu, and the process of cutting Ryu into parts by the ancestors was also after the division of the worlds. Therefore, most likely Yhwach existed a million years ago. Of course, some of you may say, but what about what came in chapter 631? When Busby said that Yhwach lived for almost 200 years. How does it mean that you say that Yhwach grew up a million years ago and Busby says he lived for 200 years? Well, living a million years ago is not something big in Bleach world, if we know that there are some characters that lived for that long time, like Ichibi or Ryo himself. Secondly, Busby said something important that denies the possibility that the Quincy as a race was formed only 200 years before the appearance of Yhwach. Notice with me what Busby said when he was talking about Hajval. First of all, he said, long time ago, once in a few decades, Quincy's like Hajval were born, which maybe each 50 years or 60 years, a Quincy like Hajval was born. And this thing was happening in the distant past, because Busby added that for hundreds of years, no one like Hajval has born. So imagine with me how old are the race of the Quincy's. See what I mean? It will definitely be measured in thousands of years. For this I say, maybe the appearance of Yhwach during the existence of Busby and Hajval might not have been his first appearance of him. In other words, Yhwach is not 200 years old since he was the one who founded the Quincy's, because even Busby's talk about Yhwach refers to the fact that the Quincy's were living their normal lives until that Yhwach appeared and claimed that he is the father of the Quincy's, and for this reason we may understand why Yhwach originally entered into a war with the Quincy's, because many of them wouldn't believe, how do you say that you are the father of the Quincy's and we as a race were living here for thousands of years. And so it can be said that one of the reasons of that civil war that happened in the Empire of Light was because some clans of Quincy's didn't accept Yhwach to rule them, and Busby's clan was a victim of this invasion. Besides the fact that Yhwach's life is based on wars, he cannot stop igniting the fuse of war, or he will return as a helpless child as he was. Therefore, the words of Chokinada and the words of Busby are inconsistent with the idea that the appearance of Yhwach in the period of Busby is his first appearance of him. So how can we reconcile these two contradictory information? In my personal opinion, I see the things like this, and I have said some of them in my old video. And it's that after the formation of the words, in some way, the child Yhwach was sent to the real world, whether he was a son of Ryo or an embodiment of his power. There may have been a certain period of time left until people gathered around him, and you know the rest of the story. It was explained by Kubo at the beginning of chapter 565, because we shouldn't forget an important fact. We don't know how long it took Yhwach to grow up. The mechanism of Yhwach's power was based on sharing his soul parts with others, and those parts wouldn't return until the beneficiary of that part died. The beneficiary might die after months or after years. For this, the process that enables the child Yhwach to hear and see and speak, it may have taken some time, and who knows, when Yhwach became able to see, he found that there were a large number of people worshipped him. At the time where he thought of creating a new race, the Quincy's, and this is another story. How did he do that? Did he convert a group of people into Quincy's through special rituals, and then that group began to marry among themselves, from which the new Quincy race branched out? Or did Yhwach marry a human woman and gave birth to the first Quincy from her? It remains vague. But what I believe, according to this possibility, is that Yhwach, when he created the first members of Quincy's, he disappeared from that first community he created. Whether he's back to his original state as a helpless child, as Hajval said, wars and Yhwach sharing parts of his soul with others are the basis for his continuity. Without that, he will not be able to live and will lose his sensory abilities. And Yhwach seems to appreciate this very much. At the end of chapter 565, he was thankful for the souls that died, and the parts of him he shared with them returned to him. As he said, he could see again for another day. The important thing is, whatever the reason for that absence, it made the Quincy multiply and form a self-contained nation that has its own language, its own culture, their own power, their own cities, etc. And I don't know if they had any knowledge of their true origin. For example, from where they came, because if you notice, the Quincy's talk about Yhwach did not start until the first war between Yhwach and Yamaji. At that time, we began to hear the Kaiser Gizan, in which Quincy's talk about the Sealed King who will return after 1,000 years. I don't think that the Quincy's before that period had knowledge of the existence of a king of theirs. Maybe few of them, but the majority didn't know anything about this until the reappearance of Yhwach. For this, I say that the age of Yhwach and when he was born and how he founded the Quincy race, all of that stills a mystery. And Kubo is the only one who is able to give us an explanation of how Yhwach existed during the days of the Rio Seal and how the Quincy's were established long before Yhwach appeared in the period of Busby and Hashfeld. So guys, tell me what you think, give me your opinion, and see you in my next video.